Yes, it's really nice to be here and to meet you all. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about our little air pollution project called Smogoff. Hopefully you can see the slides. Um, and yeah, so you should see three sensor boxes. So let me know if you don't. So my name's Dave, and I'm talking to you today from this part of the UK, which is the far southwest, sticking out into the Atlantic. And one aspect right away about this area that might be relevant later on is that it's quite a rural area. There's not a lot of built up areas that you would expect to have air pollution problems. But that's where I'm talking to you from today. I run a little organisation with my partner Amber called Then Try This. We're a little interdisciplinary research group, and Amber's background is in academic research, and she studied epidemiology and wildlife disease and genetics, and she was a lecturer at the University of Exeter. And my background's quite different. I come from commercial research and development. I worked in games, doing PlayStation stuff with Sony, and film special effects and things like that. And we both reached the point of our careers that we wanted a bit of a new challenge and to do something a bit different. And so we joined forces to set up this organisation. So the kind of things we work on, we do a lot of arts residencies and things like this. So this is Hattie Porter on the top left, and they were doing a residency with us, examining the connections between autism and microbiomes. And specifically looking at the attitudes of researchers to autistic people, which is kind of interesting in itself. And that was working with Elsa Hess at the University of Exeter on a social microbes project. We also have Alex McLean, who works with us. So he's doing his Future Leaders Fellowship with us. And he's looking at the connections between heritage algorithms and craft cultures and digital technology with specific interest in textiles and computer music. And he could have decided to do his fellowship with the university, but he chose us to get the benefits of a tiny organisation instead of a large institution, which we're really pleased about. And so two projects which are a bit more relevant to the air pollution project I'm going to talk about. We have the Evidence Support Initiative, which is part of quite a long-running project we have, where we pair up academic researchers with their local representatives, the elected representatives in their area. And the idea here is to increase evidence, the support for evidence on sort of local government level to achieve different policy changes. And that tends to be quite successful. We get very long-running collaborations with that. And then another project which is relevant is an epidemiology citizen science game we've just started working on, which is with Matt Silk at the University of Edinburgh. And what we're trying to do here is to create a game world that allows a safe space for examining how behaviour and social networks change as a disease comes into a population. So we're hoping to release that later in the year. So coming back to air pollution, we sort of arrived looking at air pollution through another project, which is called the Sonic Kayaks project. And what we were doing here was a citizen science project where we were putting lots and lots of sensors onto kayaks, recording all the information and then turning them into sound so you can hear what's going on under your kayak as you're paddling around. And this meant that the people in the kayaks became citizen scientists, but they could also explore their environment through the senses the new senses that they had. And so we had things like turbidity and temperature sensors and a hydrophone, but we also added an air quality sensor, which if I zoom in, is a little white box with the nostrils on the back here. And that's just a particulate matter sensor. And we were interested in this because there isn't a lot of, doesn't seem to be much evidence or research done on air pollution in the marine environment. And so we were going out doing this during COVID. This is the port where I live in Falmouth, the docks. It's a kind of big natural harbour. And during the pandemic, we had the situation where we had lots of these cruise ships moored in the harbour. And it turned out that they don't have, for whatever reason, they can't plug into the power. So in order to keep the lights running and the refrigerators on they had to be running their engines 24 hours a day. And so part of the data that we were getting when we went out on these trips was the particulate matter. And generally, as you'd expect, it's pretty good in a coastal area. We didn't really pick up any particulate matter, except we got a hot spot just above where the ship was moored, which was kind of the wind direction was going in that direction. So that was kind of interesting, and it got a lot of local interest because this was quite a controversial topic at the time. And it got us looking a little bit more specifically at air pollution and how we could actually tell if that was pollution from the ship or not, and kind of look into it a bit more detail. So as I'm sure you are all aware as experts in air pollution sensing is quite a diverse area, in that you have the sensors that cost tens of thousands of euros on the left, that are used by governments to actually detect what's going on in the air in busy streets that are fixed in position. And then you have the huge thousands and thousands of different types of open source air quality sensors that are much cheaper, but you kind of have to have effort and knowledge to build them and program them and get data out of them. And then you have devices like this on the right, which was actually donated by Joe Garrett, who I think is on, I just saw on this call. So thank you, Joe, who lent us this to test. And these are commodity proprietary devices, which are very easy to use, slightly more expensive, but still pretty cheap. But if we're looking at policy change, and particularly kind of local government changes and kind of making things happen on that level, it's a little bit varied what you can do with these different devices. So obviously the ones on the left are used for policy. That's their one job, really. The open source sensors might be useful, but there's kind of complexity there. They're not calibrated. You don't really know if they're all going to be recording the same information. And then the ones on the right, the kind of proprietary systems, they're not really useful for policy in our experience, because they tend to use made up units. So air quality is good or bad between 1 and 10, or if they do provide useful units, there's a lot of processing going on in the background and you can't access it because it's proprietary, so you can't really rely on it for evidence for reporting what's going on. So that was the situation that I'm sure you're all too familiar with, that we were kind of exploring. And so we had a chance to build a prototype system to do this, which ended up looking like this. So we had a little bit of funding locally from Smartline to develop this idea a little bit further. And this is our sort of first prototype air pollution sensor, and it measures particulate matter and nitrogen dioxide. So yeah, we added nitrogen dioxide to get a bit more specificity in whether these high particulate matter readings were actually pollution, or were they mist off the sea or something else. And we wanted to give people real-time information out on the street as well as what was going on. So we tried a few different ways of doing that. And this was, you can't really see it very well in this photo, but it's a little LED smiley face. And if it's above the WHO, well, yeah, if it's below the WHO limit, then it's a smiley face. And if it's above, then it's a sad face. So I guess most of the time on this project, we were working on actually making something that we could leave out on the streets in all the different weather, making it waterproof, but also making the air flow over the sensors enough to get some readings. And we collected a lot of data, but we didn't really know. So people started asking us if they could use the data. And we were, yeah, maybe. It's kind of, maybe it's relative values, but we didn't really know, didn't really trust it enough. So then we kind of come up to how we calibrate these sensors. So we were approached by Anthony Brown, who's doing a PhD in biological sciences, and he wanted to do his postdoctoral professional internship with us after his PhD. And he got really interested in this project and wanted to kind of, take it forward and work on it for 6 months. And so he worked with our local government council, and they let us co-locate our sensors next to their big street installations, and gave us access to all the data that they were collecting. And it's kind of worth sort of talking a bit more about the politics at this point. because we found them really easy to work with. They would bend over backwards to help us, and were really, yeah, kind of much more easy than I kind of expected. And this is kind of paraphrasing a conversation that I had with them, but they said that we need ways for elected representatives to get the support to make the bold changes that we all know are needed. So this is coming from an environmental health officer who's a professional working in this field. And he was saying that everybody knows what needs to be done, but the elected representatives just need to know that they've got the support of their citizens to do it, to make those changes. And so they were quite happy to support anything that might nudge people in that direction. And actually, as an external independent organisation that's not connected with the council, that actually made them more happy to help us. So we have, we kind of got some nice data from this. On the left, we have the PM10 values that they were reading. Initially, we were getting much lower values, but then we worked out that if we set it to the 15-minute maximum values from the sensor, that pretty much matched exactly what they were getting. On the right is the nitrogen dioxide, which is a little bit more going on there, a little bit more peaks and troughs in our sensor, which is in blue, and the reference monitor is in the black. But yeah, we were getting the right kind of numbers with a little bit of calibration and stuff. We were in the right ballpark, so we were really happy with that, and we could then go forward and kind of give people the data that we were recording with a bit more relaxed about it. So then we could think about the housing design, because you've kind of got two choices here. You can make something that's like to leave out on the streets that might get damaged or stolen. You can either make something that looks really inconspicuous, like just a grey box, or you can make something really kind of obvious and tell people what it's doing. And we went down the sort of latter path. So Anthony prototyped these designs out of wood to come up with this kind of cloud design. And they worked on ways of waterproofing the electronics, but having the sensors open to the air. And then making this is the kind of final design. So actually we decided to make it transparent so people could see everything that was inside, that it wasn't actually that valuable, and kind of show people what it was doing. So literally making it transparent. And then we built 3 of these to use to test with. And the other thing we wanted to do is we changed this real-time display from being an LED screen to being a paper-white screen. And that's really good because it's visible in daylight, but also it doesn't really use up any power at all. So it's really nice on battery usage. So this cycled through a few screens. It tells people what it is. It's an air pollution sensor and a website to go to find out more about it. Gives you the executive summary of what's going on as before. And then it also gives you the numbers and units that we're using to show what it's actually testing and measuring. So after that, we had another, so the way this project's been funded, it's in kind of little tiny bits and people come along and do different parts of it. So after that, we wanted to do a case study into this. And luckily enough, this is the building where our studio is, and the people that manage the building are really keen on this topic because there's a busy road in front. And they want to know how it's affecting their tenants and people passing by. So they were really keen for us to actually test it in the building that we work. So George Brock came along, and he's an MSc in Sustainable Development, and he wanted to do an internship with us for a few weeks. And he trained up the people that run the building and how to use the sensors and collect the data. And then he produced these amazing reports, which give them all of the kind of the details of what's going on, the weather at different times and how that might affect it, things like this, and when it was recorded and where they were. And generally, again, this is a rural place. This is a place that's generally considered to be quite healthy, sea breezes and so on. But you still have a situation here where in rush hour times, we are well above the WHO levels. So it's still a very polluted area, and a kind of a busy road is a busy road, whether it's in a city or in the countryside. So more worryingly, or more specifically, They also did testing outside a nursery, which is in the same building that we're in. And of course, just at the times when people are picking up and dropping off their kids at rush hour, it's also really bad air pollution. So this kind of really focused people's minds as to the problem. I asked a couple of days ago when I was planning this talk as to what the impact of this had been. And the person that runs the building said that essentially yeah, so they had a lot of meetings recently on what to do with the road out the front of the building and kind of planning what to happen. And she said that they could take the data to the planning meetings and basically not feel like a total bunch of hippies just complaining, but they actually had data to back up their concerns, and it totally changed the nature of their engagement with the sort of the system and working out what had to be done. And this is really nice. This is what we kind of want to see at the end of the day. It's just this this supporting people with the evidence that they can collect themselves. So we now have 3 groups who have approached us wanting to use these sensors. So we have an air quality community group in Manchester, we have a cycling advocacy group in Worcester, and a local government, Alana Parish Council, who are just down the road from us in Cornwall. So spread across the country, different kinds of organisations, and they've all kind of aware of the problem and tried different things, but really see what we're doing as might sort of tick some of their boxes. And so kind of how we see this working is we need to build more of these units and document them, and there's quite a lot of improvements we want to do on making them easier to use, get them to the community groups who can then collect their own data that they own themselves, and then help them actually get that policy change that they're looking to see. And we kind of see our expertise or involvement in this at the sort of right at the beginning, so kind of building the hardware, and right at the end, sort of how that actually impacts the policy. We're currently looking for funding for this, so if you have any ideas, let me know. And that's about all I have for you. So that's our website, my email address, and all of the designs and software is all open source, of course, and that's on our GitLab page that you have a link for down there. So I shall, well, maybe I should leave that up for a second, but are there any questions or comments?
Yeah, looks beautiful. The floor is open for questions. Who wants to start?
Oh, I've got weird pop-up boxes now. What's happening? Okay.
Frank.
Yes. Hi everyone. Thanks a lot for this interesting talk. I have a bunch of questions. I'll start with 1 or 2 maybe.
Mm-hmm.
So just as maybe context, I'm with the University of Twente in the Netherlands,
Mm-hmm.
and we're concerned about environmental monitoring of air quality, for example. So we do geospatial analysis and all that. And we are actually thinking about setting up a bit of a network here in our city of Enschede with low-cost sensors. So, and I think your solution is a very interesting one. And I was, of course, wondering how much effort do you think it would cost for someone if someone would approach you, let's say citizen science project, right, and say we want to have 15 to 20 of those sensors to really start building a network. Is that feasible? How much would that cost? Would you be able to actually provide those sensors? So what's your plan on scaling this up?
So in terms of cost, in terms of materials, it's not very much except for the NO2 sensor, which is about, we got them a bit cheaper because we're a non-profit, but they're about 200 euros or so. But then the cost of the rest of it is only sort of maybe 80 to 100. So the majority of it is, in terms of just materials, is that one sensor. but the cheaper ones don't seem to work very well. And that's we found that as the sort of the cheapest one that actually produces results that we can use. In terms of scaling it up, in the past, we've done a few things where we've, instead of becoming a sort of manufacturer of these things, we've provided open source documentation and lists of materials, and then run workshops to help people build their own. So that would be one option that we're very comfortable with. And in this case, it would be kind of interesting to do that, because a lot of the stuff is to do with the design of the waterproofing and things like that. But if there was a case of actually manufacturing these and supplying them, that is also something we could look at doing. But in terms of quotes, that would be difficult for me to do off the.
I'm not asking for a quote here.
But yeah, it would be. I think that level of that kind of number would be possible. But it would be more comfortable for us, I think, to make it easier for people to make their own, and then sort of spread the knowledge to do how to do that.
Yeah. Can I ask another question?
Mm-hmm.
How are you currently sharing this data? Do you have any plans, or is it possible to feed this data into existing platforms like the sensor.community/Luftdaten one, or the Open Sense map? Is this possible?
We generally put all of our data on Zenodo. With this project, it's more a case that the people using the sensors own the data rather than us. And that's kind of important sort of distinction, I think. So we're not, we're not sort of owning that. So that would be up to them for how to use it. But yeah, generally we put stuff on Zenodo. So looking at these other open source repositories is something that would be kind of interesting, because there's so many is the problem that we found, of knowing which one to actually target with that would be good to know.
So that there's no wireless network connectivity at the moment.
At the moment, it's saving everything to an SD card,
Mm-hmm.
but we've got kind of plans to use something like LoRaWAN or something like this to do that with. But that's one of the kind of future plans.
Thank you.
Super, good questions.
Can you tell me what sensors are actually in the box?
Yes, I had a kind of a slide of all the technical stuff, which I skipped because I didn't want to go too far that. But yeah, so an Alpha Sense is the
NO2
sensor, and it's a plan tower, just a basic particulate matter sensor.
Okay.
And then we've had to, for the Alpha Sense one, we've had to build the hardware to actually read the analog values and do all the correction on that.
Yeah, we also do some work with the Alpha Sense NO2 sensor, and we have the problem that it's drifting. So you can calibrate it, and it works nice for a week, maybe 2 months, but you never know, because at some point it will start drifting.
Yes, and they get poisoned as well, so they kind of stop working with exposure. Is that right?
Yeah, well, they are chemical sensors, so at some point the chemicals are sort of they're out of chemicals, I suppose.
Yeah.
So it depends on how polluted an area is, how long the sensor will work, I think.
Yeah.
Can you give a ballpark estimate on that? How long? Just curious. I mean, are we talking about weeks, months?
A year, maybe.
But they're also constructed so that the actual sensor, this has been a while since we looked at this, but the actual sensing part, I believe you can replace, and the circuitry stays the same. So that when the sensor runs out, the actual sensing unit runs out, you can then just swap it over, and it's not as expensive as the whole thing.
Yeah. You exchange only the sensor bit. Yeah. Kostas?
Just a clarification on the electrochemical sensors concerning alpha sense. Our experience is that, yes, it's true that they are drifting, especially in environments where there are vast differences in temperature and relative humidity, and they require to be replaced. They have a cost, so I mean that it's some hundreds of euros per sensor last time I checked. So this means that you have to have a backup plan, let's say, for replacing them if you have quite a lot of units. And also, okay, this is not a commercial product, I understand. In commercial companies also run an in-house calibration phase for verifying that all sensors are, let's say, identical twins in their behavior before being mounted to devices and then deployed, because this twin behavior is not necessarily a fact when they come from the factory, let's say, from the manufacturer.
Yes, we do that. So we've calibrated them. We've got the one we calibrated against the local government sensor, and then we calibrated the rest of our sensors against that one because they're all slightly different. And then they also, the manufacturers provide slightly different magic numbers from the factory testing as well. So yeah, we had to do internal calibration against each other as well.
And sorry, just another thing. Are you, let's say, resetting zero? Because it really depends on the environment. If you go to the south in comparison to the north of Europe, then the zero, let's say, level is quite different in a way.
In terms of, in terms of the temperature, do you mean?
No, I mean that zero concentration, because those sensors, if they are used as they are, they might produce negative concentration values. Because the main, let's say, way of thinking of the manufacturer is their linear behavior within a certain range of concentrations. But the absolute value is not necessarily the correct one. So you have to, let's say, check them against zero value.
Yes. So that was what we did the co-location calibration for, because we can't do a zero pure air kind of level. So yeah, that was the idea of doing that. So we at least had that as the ground truth that we were calibrating against.
Okay. And now a question which is before we end up asking you all these technical questions, because we're just so interested in the technical stuff, I would like to ask you a question about the impact, because it seems to me that it's quite unique, the amount of impact you had in your projects. So what do you think is the secret there?
Just plug in, my laptop's just dying, typically. So yeah, the impact. Sorry, say the question again. What was the reason for that?
Yeah, it seems to me that you have a lot of impact with your sense. So really, people felt that they could do something with it and were taken more seriously. So you had some local governments interested in your data, accepting the data. So yeah, I just want to know, how do you do that? What is the secret? Because that is, that is what we all want. We want to have impact.
Yeah. So I think for us, it is really about doing the work within the community. So designing it with people, co-design, and allowing people to challenge your preconceptions. So we really quickly, so this whole decision about having real-time display on the street really came about because so many people walked past and wanted to know about it, have opinions. We're actually changing their behavior because they could see that it was bad at this time. Somebody said, I'm not going to cycle down here at this time anymore. I'm going to go home later to avoid and getting a lot of this sort of feedback from people constantly and allowing that to change what you're doing and not coming out, not sort of telling people how it should be. I think that's the key to it. and sort of just doing one step at a time and then getting feedback and then allowing that to change what you're doing. That's kind of what we specialize in all of our projects. And actually citizen science is an amazing place to do that, because it really is about involving people in all stages of the process.
Yeah. And how important is it that the NO2 measurements, are they what? Because you saw these spikes, so people were saying, oh, I'm not going there anymore. Is that because of the NO2, or is it because of the particulate matter, or both?
They don't really care. It's because of the sad face. If it's a sad face, it's bad. So yeah, we can then talk about the difference between that with them and explain it. But yeah, I suppose it is the nitrogen dioxide, because that's really the thing that's specifically saying that's actually pollution, because we were getting high particulate matter readings for all sorts of different things. But then we can actually say, no, this is actually from pollution. But yeah, as far as people, they don't need to understand too much to kind of make choices and change things. It's more a question of explaining, of kind of having that available. If they want to look deeper, they can kind of see what those numbers are and what the units that it's measuring are.
Okay, yeah, interesting. Other questions? Remarks? Or do you have questions for us?
I think, yeah, I suppose my question at the end was, we haven't, like, given the severity of the situation, we haven't had any luck getting funding for this project. And we've got kind of, it's a weird situation because we have the thing working, we have people who want it, but we haven't, and we've put quite a lot of bids in and they just haven't been successful. So yeah, I suppose it's kind of advice on ways or approaches that can be used for sort of making these projects sustainable, I suppose. And one thing might be to actually make a slightly more commercial approach at this and actually try getting it self-funding itself. But then that changes the nature of what you're doing too much, I think. So yeah, I think there's questions about sustainability which may be beyond the remit of today, but that's kind of one of the things we have interest in, I think, at this point.
Yeah. Anybody wants to comment on that? It's like, yeah, I think it's a difficult question. So
It's a struggle for everyone, isn't it?
Yeah. So yeah, Frank.
Yeah, I'm afraid I don't have the easy solution to this. I can only say that we also have had very mixed to no success in acquiring funding. And when I look at the many projects that, let's say, in the past decade have investigated a combination of, or have investigated air quality with citizen science approaches, I also wonder whether project funding really is the way forward, because there are plenty of projects that did great stuff. And yeah, after 3 years, the funding was over. And shortly thereafter, also the project in a way died. You may have still some sensors somewhere sending something to some platform, but there's no way, no sustainable way to continue with this. And in my experience, the two main platforms that have scaled up and that are working to some extent without project money are the Open Sense box and this sensor.community community / Luftdaten, what was it originally called, I don't recall. But so because they have found some way to sell their kits in a shop for a price that pays for the components.
Yeah.
And so they kind of, and at least Open Sensebox, they do lots of advertising also in schools. And so this seems to be, at least at the moment, a bit of a self-sustaining effort. But clearly, if there is, I also don't want to predict whether, if there's no support at all, whether this will really be a sustainable effort in 5 years.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I love that, and we're a big inspiration, I think, for the sort of direction that we took to begin with, and sort of the designs that we were looking at, and things like this. But yeah, I kind of wonder as well if it's a kind of a strange situation where there's feels like there might be a slight pressure to not measure too much.
Oh yes.
Yes.
Yensha?
Hello, I am
Hello.
Yensha. I'm just brief introduction about myself. So I'm currently a assistant professor working in UvA, the University of Amsterdam. And previous I was in the US, in Pittsburgh for a long time. My previous lab has some kind of ways of maintaining a similar tool. Well, we build sensors by ourselves, and then we also have like softwares for uploading like all the sensor data back and visualize them. And the way how my previous lab keep the funding is because there is like a big organization that it's called Heinz Endowment, and then they are like local. They are very interested in this type of system, so they end up provide like small funding to the lab for like a very long period of time. So it's not really like a project-based run, but it's like continuous fundings. But I think it really requires to have a very good connection to the endowment and the organization that is willing to keep the funding running. And then eventually my supervisor decided to commercialize the tool. So he actually built a spin-off company and then get monies and then make it commercialize sensors, so he can get some profits out from that and use that to support like all the entire software system and also the hardware.
Yeah, we've kind of, it's a difficult one because I think it does change. It slightly reduces what you can do in terms of, I guess, the policy stuff as soon as it kind of becomes encapsulated in a kind of private company kind of thing. But I think, yeah, there might be more in treating it like a service where you're providing a service for concerned people and doing the data processing and all of that side of it. I think that sort of commercialization might fit a bit better.
Yeah, I think that is also very interesting. Just not just to see it as a box and you're selling a box, but more like, okay, we know how to build a community around this and to help the people formulate their questions about the environment, about the air quality. So in that case, it may be municipalities who may be interested if there is a problem in a town, or they feel that there is a large interest in air quality that does not get addressed properly, then you could provide, okay, we are building the community for you, we are going to build sensors, we are going to make a measurement plan because the nice feature of your sensor box is actually that people can see the results in the street. So you are not just, you're not just, if you could start by building such a box with the community, but then your target is much larger than that, because it's everybody who walks past the box who can see it. So that is really very attractive, I think, to have impact. So that I can imagine that may be interesting for all kind of municipalities.
Yeah, Yeah.
So, but still, that those are also difficult customers because they're also usually not working with very big budgets or stuff like that.
Yeah, that's kind of what we're used to. A problem we're used to.
Yeah. So yeah.
I also wanted to mention that maybe there's a way to take more advantage of the fact that your box actually looks nice. I mean, 90% of the boxes are ugly that are out there, and yours actually looks nice. And yeah, so I don't know. Maybe that indeed is also gives some angle to get more out or to interest people in having them.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that is very interesting in the projects that you showed, that it looks so beautiful and it's so obviously visible, because in the sensor kits I work with, they hang at a higher altitude so that people cannot reach it, and actually they don't see it. It's just above the eye level, and then it becomes sort of kind of like an invisible part of the street. And that we thought that was a good idea because then you don't get vandalism.
Yeah.
They don't get vandalized. But actually it may be what you're doing may be better. So that people see it, actually can see the results and become curious about it. So that is really...
That was our big gamble, I think, that we decided to go down that route and leave them for days in that kind of situation. And I think it's worth the risk. I think in terms of the increased sort of outreach and people seeing them, it's definitely worth that, I think. But yes, it was the first time we did it, it had that big chain around it because we were quite worried.
Regarding funding,
Gabriel?
sorry, yes, regarding funding, and the idea just popped into my mind. How about selling it as an advertising surface, just not big but small, like sponsored by, and then companies that want to have the image of healthy and supporting healthy lifestyle or something like that, they would pay for the couple $100 just to have, it doesn't have to be the full surface, but just, their name there. So sponsored by, and that's it.
Yeah. They'd want to be associated with the kind of health impact of it. Yeah. That's interesting. That's not something we're very experienced with, but it's it's a good idea.
Yeah. And do you sell them per piece, or do you need a larger bunch of instruments sold?
Well, our dream really would be to build enough that we could lend them out to the community groups that want them, because the problem is the people that want them wouldn't be able to afford to buy them. So yeah, our dream would be to lend them out for long periods of time to the community groups, and have them work well enough that they could then read their own data. But yeah, in terms of building them, it's always easier if you're kind of doing a small sort of run of production to build them.
Gensha?
Yeah, speaking about like that lending stuff, my previous lab used a strategy to actually, because it's the same issue. People don't really have money to buy the sensors, so we actually work with the local libraries. So the libraries bought a bunch of these sensors and then give it and lend it to the citizens. So a lot of citizens can come to the library and then they borrow the sensors for a period of time and put it in their house and do some measurements.
That's really beautiful, actually, because that really fits with the sort of what libraries do, and kind of, yeah, that's a really nice idea. Yeah. writing all this down.
Yeah, that's a beautiful idea. Any more questions, remarks? If not, then I would like to thank everybody for being present and helping out with a great discussion. And I would like to thank in particularly David for a very beautiful talk. And keep us posted on the developments. And if you want to have more contact, let us know, because
Sure,
then we
definitely. Thank you very much for having me.
okay. Thank you.
Thanks for the great discussion too.
Everybody, yeah, I guess we could talk a little bit more about the continuation of this working group. We used to have one meeting per month last year, and Nuria and I were talking about that, and we were thinking about changing that to having a couple of moments per year, maybe 2, where we have a bit of a meeting which is a bit longer, so that it is easier for people to keep the date available for a bit longer, and then have a couple of talks collected together, so that we have like a mini conference. So that could be a way to continue with this group. I don't know, Nuria, you want to add something to that?
Yeah, no, just maybe that saying that in this way we can also have it as an ECSA webinar. We will ask for to have like then as a official ECSA webinar, right? Like, and then it's also like you maybe can cite it, that if you have a presentation can be cited as an ECSA webinar. So it will be a bit more not formal, like not more formal or require anything, but we thought like that can be a way also like of getting more attention, getting more people to come here and listen to the talks and the discussions, and getting also like that your work gets more visibility, right? So I think like Hester already put it in the email that we are sending to everyone, right? Like with some dates where to be collecting like short abstracts, right, Hester? That you inform on that in the email, right?
Yeah, that's and I will send another email once we know a little bit more about the conference meeting. So the 2nd of April, what kind of shape that can take. And then I will send another email out to the working group list. But for now, the idea is that we would like to ask people to send an abstract before the 15th of March, if you want to be in the meeting of the 2nd of April.
And by abstract, we mean like a paragraph, not like similar to what you are sending now, not like a, I don't know, like 500 words abstract or 2 pages abstract. No, like just like a small discussion of what you want to present and so on.
Yeah, so we can make a nice program. So,
any comments, maybe?
Any
about
comments,
this
any ideas?
New ideas about this new idea of try to ease the number of meetings we have and try to get more visibility, but maybe you have other ideas on how we shall do that. Yenxia?
Yeah, is it okay for like work in progress projects, or does it have to be like a complete project?
No, I think we haven't discuss with details, but we will keep it as it is now, you know, like it's still like an open and a discussion forum, you know, it's not like a formal conference. It's still like a webinar, like a workshop, you know, like where people can discuss openly. The only thing is like that we want to make it a little bit maybe more visible, you know, like that just, yeah, Saverio.
Yeah, I'd rather go for 3 instead of 2. Maybe 2, I feel it a little bit
too short, too much.
So 3 for a year, it could be more manageable, but also will keep the momentum, I think. 2, yeah. I perceive each semester is, I perceive it is a little bit dangerous. Like to slow down the pace too much, and then getting the risk of losing completely the momentum, and then 2 for a year, and the next year maybe it could be 0 or 1.
Yeah.
So maybe 3. It's
yeah. Actually, if we do count the ECSA face-to-face meeting, which now may be hybrid, then we will have three moments, because we had this one, 1st of March, 2nd of April, and then we can do one more at after summer.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That we always have 3 per year.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in the beginning of the year, and then before the summer, and then one in the autumn, because like the Christmas period is always like very complicated. But we have October, January. Yeah. Yeah, I think it's a good idea to have 3 here. Yeah, that's true. And of course, like we can always, this is an open, like, you know, it's not like Hester and I deciding how things are done. So if one of you also wants to request, like we would like to have a meeting because I would like to present something, right? Like we can always do that, you know, like, and this is, no, Hester, what is?
Yeah, yeah, if we work with calls, then it could also be that we say, okay, we have now 8 presentations. That is really too much for one meeting. Let's organize 2. That is a very good option, and then we can do it more or less based on the amount of people who want to present something.
Yeah. But also I'm thinking, like, you know, like if, for example, like some of the people in the, I don't know, they are preparing a paper, or they are preparing, I don't know, like some deliverable or something, they need the input, or a campaign. You are preparing a campaign, right? Like you're preparing a campaign, and you say like, wow, you know, like I'm super lost here. I would really like to get the input of this nice group. You can't send an email always to the group, you know, and then you can also ask, like, to Hester and I, can we organize? Can you use this group to organize a 1-hour workshop with the people that wants to come? So we discuss this call, or we discuss this campaign that I want to do. We discuss this, you know, like this is it's a very horizontal group, you know. It's not like Hester and I decide how to do things. We just trying, but you can also take initiative when you want to. I open, you know. Just do that. Use this group how you best think it can fit you and it can help you, because there is a lot of people in the group that, you know, might be interested in helping.
Yeah, great idea. Saverio, do you have more comments?
It's an old hand.
It's an old hand.
It's an old hand.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that puts us perfectly at 4 o'clock. So I guess that's it for now. Thank you all very much again for your attendance and for the great talk, David.
Esther, I just said one last question, but is not related strictly on about this this group, but because I like to ask if so you and Nuria have a different visibility in terms and scopes with respect to us. Are there any work group like this working on citizen science applications to the energy sector?
All the working groups are listed in the ECSA website.
Okay. So I could go there.
Yeah, you can go there and see the list of groups.
Okay.
And also, like, every year, ECSA has this opportunity of opening new groups. You know, like,
Okay.
so you can also ask to open a group. If there's something that is non-existent and you want to open a group, you can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the easiest is then to go to the ECSA conference and just
I'm there.
You are there?
Yeah, I'm there on the website.
On the
Okay.
website, yes. Yeah, but on the website you can check and if there is anything like that, and if there is a group there's not existing and you think you want to open one, you can send an email to ECSA and ask what are the procedures for that.
Okay.
Keep me posted if you do. I would be interested in energy topic.
You see, you already make a connection, and you both
There's none.
can start one if there is not.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else? If not, then thank you very much.
And have a nice weekend, everyone.
And have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
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 Bye-bye.
Bye.